TLC once said to not go chasing waterfalls. But what if waters was to fall into our lap?
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Tuesday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. We had a major splash take place in the transfer portal on Monday, and yet again, it was NC State that was making all of the waves. Of course, pun intended. Duke transfer running back Jordan Waters commits to the Wolfpack on Monday. This is a big one. This is a big fish out of the pond. An unbelievable get for the Wolfpack, continuing to keep that red light on. Whatever you smell in the kitchen right now, just got a little bit more garlic powder, a little bit more onion powder. It cannot smell any better than what we're smelling right now.
You know, I just want to say that the red light at this point in time, let's go check on that ball. Let's go check on that ball. It's been getting a lot of carries lately, a lot of usage. Around this time is where that red light starts to wear down a little bit. I mean, you look at where we start this thing off at. You look at where really this heater, this absolute heater started off at. Immediately after that Duke loss, you go on to not lose another game during the season. Right. And then you go on to not only not lose another game during the regular season, those last three weren't even competitive. Let's just be very honest with ourselves, right? The Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, and Boys and Baby Blue game, none of those three were particularly like, oh man, I'm sweating down. And even the Virginia Tech game, which got close toward the end, you still were like, we kind of like flubbed it away, but this really wasn't close. And so you now look at this situation and you say, what is going on with NC State football? I don't think it is hyperbole to say this is the most momentum we have ever carried through a second half of a season and off season combined since what? I would say the BCS era, maybe even before that. Like, this is insanity. What we are looking at right now is truly special. It's truly special. I know everybody loves to say, oh, NC State is always the school of next year. But I want you to really and truly think about this for a second. We already discussed how many times we've ended the season on a 5-game winning streak. Grayson and I have already told you, hey, every game is winnable, every game is losable. Last year, did Grayson or I come in saying ACC championship or bust? Book your tickets for Charlotte now or bust? No, absolutely not. Going into next year, I'm not ready to say it yet. And now with the way the offense is looking, I'm not going to say it, regardless of who commits on offense, because I still believe there's a few more headed the Wolfpack's way. But I will say this, in a very similar vein to Jared Verse saying, I'm coming back to Florida State to win a national championship. There are two guys that I am telling you right now, if we get both of these guys back, book your ticket to Charlotte. Aiden White and Shaheem Battle. If both of those guys come back, book your ticket now. This team is going. Now, that's a big ask. That's a huge ask of those gentlemen. If those two come back, book your ticket to Charlotte. And I darn near want to say, book your ticket to a New Year's Six game because we'll be in the playoff.
It's really hard not to put the cart ahead of the horse when you're currently having an off season like you would have maybe never dreamed would happen here in Raleigh. But to have such an incredible week in the portal early on, you get your quarterback, you get a couple very important pieces on the offensive line, you get a wide receiver, you start getting some big-time defensive commitments to make a splash, literally, with Jordan Waters. This is a guy who is a third-team All-ACC running back in 2023. So we're talking probably like a top 5 running back in the conference is now joining your team. That's unbelievable. And you talk about sort of that Duke game being almost like a full circle moment. Waters delivered the dagger in that game. What was it, the 83-yard run that effectively killed us that night?
Yeah.
He delivered the dagger in that game, and that game ended up being the game that sort of turned our season around. To get Jordan Waters now in the red and white for his final year of eligibility, and you talk about our last 3 games not really looking competitive, in large part because of our offensive line making massive strides there at the end of the season. You're getting an improved offensive line going into 2024 with one of the top running backs now from 2023 in the ACC, with all the other pieces we've already discussed and more on the way. It's so hard to conceptualize what we're watching right now for NC State out of this portal. And shout out Tom Lavolsi. That's a GOAT. That's an absolute GOAT right there. The things he's doing with Savage Wolves for this school, he's a miracle worker, and you can't say enough about him. So again, another plug here. If you have not already donated, if you're able, to Savage Wolves, you're instantly seeing the dividends here. The talent that we are bringing into Raleigh, in large part because of what Savage Wolves is pulling off here, it matters. It matters. When you have a fan base that buys in, like NC State's does, year in and year out, and now you give them the opportunity to truly make a difference in the construction of a roster at the end of each season, all that passion, all that waiting around, all that wait till next year, maybe one day it'll be us. This team is on the brink of something special with more on the way.
Absolutely. And you know, you talk about what Jordan Waters would mean to this team. Well, long story short, when you talk about an improved offensive line, let's look at a few facts from the last few games of the season. I'm fairly certain that all of the 5-game winning streak, each and every game of that 5-game winning streak had one thing in common. Every game except Clemson had one thing in common. We rushed for over 100 yards in all those games. We controlled the line of scrimmage in all those games. Against Miami, we controlled the line of scrimmage. We just did. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That was probably, or not even probably, that was definitely the most competitive of the last 4, the Miami game. And even in that game, we put the game away by doing what? Running the ball and saying, hey, if they can stop it, they can stop it. If they can't, we'll lean on them and we'll get it done. And that's what happened. And then you go forward from that game and you just see complete and utter, our offensive line put on clinics in those last few games. So shout out to Coach Tuesday and company, because I'm sure that made it a little bit easier for Jordan to come here, because after that you had the Wake Forest game, which wasn't close. The Virginia Tech game, where we put up points on, 5 or 6 straight drives or so. And then you've got the boys against Baby Blue, where again, it was just whatever we wanted to do, we did it. And there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There was no problem about it. There was no, could we really get away with this? Can we really run the ball like this? Yes. The answer was yes, we could. So I think that this is ultimately a situation that you're looking at here, where Jordan Waters is going to be special, but like a lot like we talked about with basketball in terms of, hey, there's a lot of shots to be had. Well, our running back 1 and 2 coming into this season are both no longer with the program. So who's going to play running back in the bowl game? I don't know, Grayson. They might call you and ask if you got some eligibility. My Achilles are a little too shaky for that deal, but you get the point. So with that being said, of course, you're looking at, Jordan Waters and Duke from Georgia, the recruit coming in, and you're looking at potentially another running back that we'll talk about later coming in. And so, you look at all that, combine that with Kendrick Raphael, Red Band Raf, and, you got yourself a fine backfield there.
In just a minute, we're going to touch on the other 3 commits in that 24-hour period surrounding Monday, in addition to other names to keep an eye for as this week goes on, after a quick word from our sponsor. Our sponsor of the day is eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, that's what brings home the winning trophy, but it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. That's because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right. With all these other names that have poured into the program, it's hard to imagine where this will eventually stop. It feels like we're getting a big-time recruit nearly every single day this December. But the other three big-time recruits that NC State was able to pull in within a 24-hour period, we had two from Maryland, which I guess completes a Maryland trade for MJ Morris. We acquired Corey Coley Jr., defensive back, and also Tamarcus Cooley, another defensive back. Now, Tamarcus Cooley is the one that was previously committed to NC State before ultimately flipping to Maryland, now coming back home. He knows where home is effectively now, but talk about not knowing potentially where Shaheem Battle and Aiden White currently stand. You might see opt-outs, you might not see opt-outs, but these two provide some experience that'll be very valuable to this secondary in 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. And more importantly, so I know for a fact Cooley is a hometown guy. I mean, there's a lot of importance to keeping hometown guys home because you talk about how impactful Kevin Concepcion was. Well, imagine if we would have had another impact freshman who played a slightly different position, who was, Riley was literally in his backyard. Noah, come home. We're asking. We're asking now. Pretty soon we're going to start telling you. But very seriously, we talk a lot about how the best players in North Carolina often find themselves either at Clemson or in the SEC. If you can keep the best players in the state of North Carolina at NC State, I mean, again, you imagine an NC State with Dexter Lawrence. Imagine an NC State with Jordan Davis. Imagine an NC State with, just a plethora of guys, really, that are so special for all of these other teams around the country, for all of these, other places. I mean, it's important to get a guy like Cooley to kind of show the kids here, hey, you can play here, you can stay here, you can be great here. You can do all those things here. And then on top of that, if we are to see what is likely possible in Aiden White and Shaheem Battle both leaving, that's going to leave. I mean, we talk about a lot of passes to defend, friends. Lots of one-on-one matchups for you because Coach Gibson likes to bring those dogs. And when he brings the heat, you're on an island, brother. You got to handle your business out there. And so lots of that to be done. And these two would definitely be in the running to fill that void for next year.
And speaking of bringing some dogs, we got another dog at the linebacker position. JUCO linebacker Wyatt Wright was the first one to announce on Monday that he committed to NC State. By now, by the time you're listening to this, I'm sure you have probably seen that clip of Wyatt Wright absolutely deleting a wide receiver over the middle. Is that guy okay? It's probably the only question that needs to be asked here. I don't know if I've ever seen a hit as hard as that one. The only other hit of that magnitude that comes to mind was that Reggie Bush one in the backfield when he was with the Saints. That was like the only other one. Yeah. I mean, just absolutely annihilated a wide receiver coming across the middle. So if Tony Gibson is getting this type of linebacker and Wyatt Wright into his system, we might be reloading in 2024.
Listen, that young man got hit so hard, I turned into Michael Jackson. I asked, Andy, are you okay? About 20 times before I stopped watching the video because that was intense there. But no, you're absolutely right. That is a young man that has played some football, and he's done some good things in terms of kind of setting himself apart as one of those linebackers that is going to be a high power 5 guy in terms of his ability to read plays out, in terms of his ability to make big plays like that, because it's not just about the hit there. It's also about the fact that he separated receiver from ball without getting flagged. That's very important, as we saw a lot with some of our other players in the past in terms of, getting targeting penalties and whatnot. And so that's a great pickup there. That's a great pickup on the linebacking court that's going to need some help. Because, again, you don't replace Peyton Wilson 1-for-1. You don't do that. But you replace him with everybody getting better. You replace him with quality talent around the guys that you've already got in, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I do think it's interesting that NC State is looking to address some of these holes left behind in the lower levels, like a JUCO or a D2 guy, like I'm about to mention here in just a second. And, you know, you look at the guys that had great success, like a Red Hibbler, like a Bishop Fitzgerald, coming into NC State and making instant impacts. It's easy to see why they would go back and look for additional players just a year later. So we're expecting a lot of production from Wyatt Wright here. Again, you simply cannot replace Peyton Wilson, but you got to find as much talent as you possibly can to supplement everyone else still in that room to keep this thing rolling. A couple more names to monitor as this week goes on. Mention a D2 guy. That is Shaw wide receiver Dante Lee has shown some interest into NC State. By the looks on Twitter, it looks like it might be down to either Liberty or NC State, which, like, come on, man. Come on, Hunter Raleigh, respectfully. But Dante Lee, he was a redshirt freshman. He's 6'3", certainly could use all the length at the wide receiver position that we can get. So this is a guy that certainly could be a steal if he ends up in the red and white.
You know, this young man, the only question that I have about Lee is how good does he look against competition at this level?
Yeah.
Because he was, and I mean this without the slightest bit of hyperbole. He was the Keontae Coleman of Division II last year. 6'3", returning punts. But by the way, he took a couple of them to the house, and just a freak. He is bigger than everybody else, faster than everybody else. I mean, and Lord knows if he got that ball in the open field, like it was all you saw was these long legs and thin hips just shaking and moving and grooving. I'll tell you what, this is a young man that come on home. Listen, for those of you who don't know, Shaw is in Raleigh. If you stay on Western Boulevard until it turns into MLK, it's quite literally right there. That big building that's to the left, right past the McDonald's, that's Shaw. Come on. You can stay at the same apartment, bro. You can. Come on, man. Come on. You need to stay home, man. This is where you need to stay at. This is where I'll tell you this much, okay? Look up some of Liberty's rules, Mr. Lee, and you'll find out very quickly why NC State is the place you need to be, okay? Even beyond that, at the end of the day, we can use a receiver like him. I mean, you know, you imagine him in Thunder's system because he'll have, 3 years eligibility left after he transfers. You imagine a guy like him in a couple years when he gets bigger, stronger, faster, all that good stuff. Oh, he's going to be something special if he decides to come join this red and white, not the Liberty Flame, red, blue, and white, or whatever they got going on over there. So, come on, Dante. You know what to do. Stay right where you're at. Stay right where you're at. We'll come get you. We'll come get you, as a matter of fact.
Couple more names to keep an eye on out of the portal. We have cornerback Tyrane Stewart from the JUCO East Mississippi. That sounds familiar. It was the original Last Chance U on Netflix. It's the East Mississippi Lions. So Tyrane Stewart has visited NC State. We'll have to keep an eye on him. You have Tulane safety DJ Douglas. Douglas is an interesting one. I think he could be an instant impact guy in the secondary as well if we don't already have enough depth back there. And we had a visit from Brandon Johnson, who is a nickel from Duke. Johnson could be a massive piece if we're able to land him in Raleigh. And then, of course, the one we've been kind of hinting and nudging at is still Dalen Smothers, the Oklahoma running back, who's from Charlotte, best friends with Casey Concepcion, 4 years of eligibility, lightning quick. He'd be a massive get for the Wolfpack.
Get Hollywood to Raleighwood, ladies and gentlemen. Get Hollywood to Raleighwood. That's the goal. You know, that's a special young man there. And I think that if you really look at the numbers game and how this thing works out, a lot of people are going to say, well, how can you use all those backs? Think about it like this. Waters has 1 year left. Kendrick Raphael, 3. Smothers, 4. The timing works. It works. I'd love to see all these guys be in the red and white next year.
We'll have to just wait and see how long the red light will stay off, because seemingly they can't keep it off with the amount of attention we've gotten out of the transfer portal so far. But we're going to round out our Tuesday episode with a little bit of a basketball recap of what took place over the weekend. Last couple minutes here on Tuesday, rounding up our basketball activity from over the weekend. We'll keep this one brief just because we don't want to dampen the vibes of what we've got going on with the transfer portal of late. But to recap, NC State basketball took a tough loss against Tennessee down in San Antonio on Saturday night by a score of 79-69. 270. Couple key points here. You saw Cam Woods for the first time this season. You will see a whole lot more of him because he's now eligible for the rest of the spring semester with the NCAA ruling activity that's still going on there. So inserting Cam Woods into the lineup for good now, you saw some of his capability, but the Wolfpack are still going to have to implement him and see where he may fall within these set rotations. You introduced MJ Rice just a couple weeks ago. Now you introduce Cam Woods. Still a lot to feeling out still to do, but ultimately it's not doom and gloom around this. That's a game you would have loved to have. You didn't get it. The season's not over. I understand that was very important for resume purposes, but if you go into the ACC and you take care of business, if you keep winning ball games, the rest will take care of itself. So I'm not in full-blown panic mode at all. There's still so much of the season left. We just got to start winning games.
With all due respect, I'd like to say that the basketball season is being smothered at the moment. There's too many things going on in the portal for us to be jolly about. I can't really find a reason to McCall on the basketball team to do good things for us at the moment. Do you get what I did there? Y'all see what I did there? Yeah, bunch of dad jokes. I'll see myself out. But very seriously, I mean, doom and gloomers, please stop. If this team is – my thing is if Keats isn't the guy for you because of things before this and leading up to this, I understand. But if you're one of those people that's like, oh, this loss to Tennessee means Keats isn't the guy, knock it off. Get some help. Stop.
If you're going to give up now, then just go ahead and give up. Just turn it off and just don't even bother complaining about it the rest of the season. But if you think that there's still meat on the bone for this team, then yeah, there probably is.
And even if you don't think it's meat on the bone for this team, we still have a team that plays in Reynolds that there's tons of meat on the bone for them. Top 5 team in the nation rolling through here. So either way, there is something to be excited about if you want to be excited about Wolfpack sports. All of these pickups in the portal, all of these top 5 wins for the women's basketball team. Let's not lament and drag our feet with the one team that seems to be underperforming out of our big 3 or big 4 right now.
The sun will come up tomorrow. I promise you that. I promise you that. That'll do it for us here on Tuesday. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in with us. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box. I'll be sure to get to each and every one of those. And mash that subscribe button. We're still doing incredible numbers because of the incredible support from all of Wolfpack Nation. Couldn't be more grateful for all of you. We will see you all tomorrow. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.